Afternoon, everybody. Welcome to 2025 Adelaide Microsoft Copilot User Group, the first meeting of the year. Thank you, everyone, for taking time out of your afternoon and coming along to the user group meeting. This is now our 11th one. We kicked off the user group last year, same month, same date. So really do appreciate everyone taking their time coming along, especially after the heat we had, because I'm drained from the heat. The heat's just drained me, so I do appreciate it if you're feeling drained. Moving on, once I get that working. Microsoft Copilot User Group. For those of you online, hopefully it's all coming through online all right. It should be. So welcome, everybody. A couple quick housekeeping rules so I get into it. Toilets out the door behind the left. Just keep everything clean and tidy for the Microsoft peoples here. This is their office, it is their home. And if the sound sounds, don't use the window, don't use the elevator. We've got to evacuate fire. Follow the Microsoft instructions, either via Carlo or whoever's floating around. You'll be able to pick who is doing what. Also, if you do have questions, it's better to speak clearer than yell. There's the AV room, unfortunately. The AV in the room tends to be a little bit funny sometimes. If you speak more clearer, it has a better chance of picking you up rather than louder for some reason, just how it has been. And we will be recording this session, which we're recording. Yes, so we are recording at the moment. So just please be aware that we are recording. And we'll get into it. So, I should really take out the off screen. For those of you who aren't aware of me or who I am, my name is Daniel Brown. I've been running the user group for the last 12 months. I am a Microsoft MVP, Microsoft certified. I've been using Windows and you name it, everything before Windows was Windows. I was DOS. DOS 3.0 was my first one. I also am an insider and beta tester for Office and Windows, and I also have my own consultancy firm, Archognosis, which has been around now for 15 years. As you can see, I've got my email address, and there you can find me on LinkedIn. Somehow you found either me or the group or something, so you've done something correct in order for me or you to find me. I do appreciate that. A little bit about just the old slide there. My OneDrive hasn't worked. All right, we'll keep pushing. I don't know how well this slide deck's going to look, unfortunately. As I said, the Adelaide Microsoft User Group, we had our first meeting in 2024. We founded in December, but we didn't have our meeting. And it is very much a Copilot focused user group, not necessarily a Microsoft 365 Copilot user group. So you don't need the $30 a month license, although in this session it is required. Sorta. We'll get into that. And yeah, we're on socials. LinkedIn is the main one that I do pump pretty much. We're on Meetup, obviously, and everything else in between. So quick round the state, I suppose. I've had this slide in for quite some time, but how is Copilot being used in South Australia? I mean, the various different ways are, the email summarization, email generation, document generation, quizzes, tests, a whole bunch of training material resources. Not so much computer vision. That's a little bit out of purview of Copilot, but it is there, and creating any aspect of Copilot. So we also have a 365 user group, which I also run as well. So just to give a bit of clarification on that, we've got Copilot, M365 is M365, but M365 may include a little bit of Copilot because there is Copilot for Microsoft 365 as well. Yeah, that's all. This is definitely the old one. So this month we've got Carlo, and that's great. My slide deck's not updated. And next month is to be announced because the speaker did pull out this afternoon, but I've got a whole 12-month session lined up of speakers, Heidi, Andrew, myself, Carlo, and various other people from around the place. I'll publish that up and check that one out. If you missed the communication, there is a newsletter. I do occasionally send emails to it. For the past 10 years with the 365 user group, I'd send them out monthly, and it's a lot of work just to put all these emails together, especially when I'm pumping out everything via Meetup, via LinkedIn, via the socials. I do it for the major announcements. If you're not there, sign up. We do have topic submission as well. So if you're keen for a particular topic around the Copilot topic, like I said, it doesn't have to be Microsoft 365 Copilot. It can just be Copilot. It can be free Copilot or Copilot security, help desk, finance, support, GitHub, you name the Copilot. We will address topics around it. If I can't speak on the subject, I will find someone who can, whether locally or remote. Got a vast network in terms of Adelaide and our speakers and stuff, so we can find a speaker if you have a desire of a topic. If you do want to talk, please, I'll accept anyone who wants to talk at the user group. Doesn't have to be for an hour session. Could be for a 5 or 10 minute session. Something you've done, something that's happened, something that's cool. Fill in the form, and if you're not too confident, I'm happy to stand up and field any questions. It's no drama for me to help and assist speakers who may not be the best at public speaking, but have a really cool thing that they've done and they want to show off. Social media, as I said, I'm pretty prolific on social media. We've got LinkedIn page, LinkedIn group, feel free. Sign up. Any pictures you want to take today, feel free to. What I ask is you tag them with the AMCUG, so Adelaide Microsoft social media tag. That way I can see them and pump them up and spread around the love. Thank you today to our sponsors, which is Microsoft for their location or their venue, as well as Carlo to the side of me for his speaking as well. And Archinosis for essentially my time. Archinosis is my business for the catering and organising everything as well. We do have a somewhat vibrant user group community here in Adelaide, surprisingly, compared to what the other states, especially the Eastern Seaboard. It seems Adelaide is pretty much on top of the user groups. We've got various user groups, .NET, the data and analytics user group. It sounds more complicated than it is because that was the SQL Server user group. So we've got .NET, SQL Server, SharePoint, 365, Power BI, IT Pro, Azure. We are, when I say we as in the user group leads, we will support you if you want to start a security group as well. So a security focused user group. The MVP, not the MVPs, the user group leads will help you. We don't want to be actively running another user group. I already run 2. Various other user group leads do run their own groups, but we will assist, support, guidance, all that stuff if you are interested in running a security user group. Bringing events to Adelaide, this is a big one, certainly in the current climate of all the things that are happening. Adelaide gets passed over a lot. We show Microsoft, we want to show everybody that, yes, we do have a vibrant community, there's people coming along, there's events and all this sort of stuff, and then Microsoft brings the events around. And so we get things like the AI Summit, the AI Tour, and various other bits and pieces as well. Feel free to blast it out as well. Couple quick announcements. The DWC, which is the Digital Workplace Conference New Zealand, is happening in March. This took place in Australia last August, and it's essentially a yearly event that happens in Sydney or Melbourne, as well as in Auckland or somewhere else in it. And yeah, 18th to 19th of March, it's in Auckland, whole bunch of sessions, 40 odd sessions, MVPs, Microsoft, industry leaders, industry partners all come together and essentially show off all the cool stuff that people have been doing in the digital workplace place. And these days, certainly there's a big focus on Copilot and AI, as one might expect. What's new in Copilot? Because this is a really old slide, this is what's new from December. I do apologise for that. My slide appears to not have updated in SharePoint. But roughly, it's a lot of stuff that has come out in the last 18 to 24 months. Whole bunch of stuff, too much to go into. I want to give a whole bunch of time to Carlo this afternoon as well. So put up some stuff on LinkedIn, suss it out, but there is a whole bunch of stuff that's coming and that has come. The biggest one, of course, is agents, which is what we're here today to talk about as well. So keep that in mind. Microsoft for startups. If you are a startup, you can get access to $150,000 worth of Azure credits, expert guidance, and everything like that. Check it out. You can get resources as well as expert engineers to sort of meet and greet and help you. If you're developing a product, they can explain platforms and things. Very cool idea, and really easy to get in. Microsoft Learn has fired back up again for 2025. There is a whole bunch of stuff, new learning paths, new modules, you name it, it's all new in 2025. If you're not a fan of Microsoft Learn, fair enough, but if you are, there is a whole bunch of stuff. Applied skills, the virtual training days, and of course the Microsoft certifications as well. Copilot Academy for Viva. Yet again, this was an old slide, so this is 2024 material. I do apologise, but we've got Copilot Academy now in Viva Learning. And then the Microsoft Learn recommendations. So these are two, one's a module, one's a learning path that I do recommend. The whole Get Starting with Microsoft Copilot, cool. It's about 4 to 6 hours. And there are a whole other bunch of very worthwhile learning paths and modules. I do recommend the Crafting Effective Prompts. I'm seeing a lot of people go to Copilot/AI. I want a proposal. Enter. Cool. Proposal for what? What information? What functions? What format? What output? So using that as a starting point to sort of guide people on how to construct prompts and how to get information out the AI, gold. It's just something that I've seen really lacking in the market. And then the same with the getting started with Microsoft Copilot. Really basic, really intro. Most people will probably be above that anyway, but it's two great starting points. Yep, that's not me. It is me, but it was meant to be Carlo. So with that, I'm really sorry about that. It hasn't updated on SharePoint for some reason. It's probably still open up on my desktop. So we have Carlo here this afternoon from Microsoft Adelaide speaking on something. What is it? Copilot plus agents. I wasn't sure if the SharePoint word was in there. So.
Oh, yeah, it could be. You can quickly add it.
So I will get out the way and I will hand over to Carlo. I'll stop sharing to present his presentation.
Awesome.
Leave you to it.
Thank you.
Cool. Not a probs.
I'll turn the video on. I think people can see us from over there. But for those that don't know who am I, what do I do? I work at Microsoft. Some people call me Mr. Copilot. I don't like that, but it's because I have to wear the top. I'm legally required to as part of my contract. No. I am part of the sales team. I look after modern work across WA, Northern Territory and South Australia, primarily in the government space, but we absolutely love taking these opportunities to have a chat with the community. And look, today, the focus, we've been hyping this one for quite a while. I think just before Christmas, we were talking about agents. What are they? How do they work? And why the hell should I care? And so today we're going to go through a little bit of content in slide form, but we're also going to jump into the actual tools as well. Really make sure that you get a good understanding as to where do agents fit in the ecosystem of Copilot, because I'm sure just like some of us internally, you may say Copilot to some person and they say Copilot back, but you're talking about something completely different. Because we have a hell of a lot of Copilots. And it's not to say that everyone gets all Copilots. The intent here is there's a Copilot for everyone, but it's not all the same. It's unique experiences to different, to unique roles. So from a topics perspective, we'll talk about agents and Copilot. We'll jump through some of the, looking at the spectrum of, well, what can agents do? We'll have a few videos, and I do apologize in advance. There are some fantastic US accents that we're going to get to listen to today. We're then going to look at some demos throughout. We'll absolutely talk about security, and then I've collected some links around where can you get started. So I'll make sure that this presentation and the recording is shared with Dan, and we'll share it in PDF form, so all the links will be clickable. If you do have questions online or in the room, we'll take them at the end. So just note them and just put your hand up online, and we'll get to you in the order of hands going out. So first things first is Copilot, the vision of Microsoft, which was announced at Ignite in November last year, is that Copilot is the UI for AI. What does that mean? Because it sounds cool, but what does it mean? It means that everyone that is part of a Microsoft 365 environment or even has an Entra ID will have access to a Copilot experience that's enterprise ready. Okay? But for those that have been playing with Copilot since November 2 years ago, when we launched Microsoft 365 Copilot, you would have thought, well, business process and Microsoft 365 Copilot kind of are two different things. I've got one that really supports me on my personal productivity. It's your personal assistant, sits in the background, helps you. How do I bring that to business processes? And really the way we're doing that is through agents. So for every user, we intend that they have a Copilot accessible. For every business process, we see an agent supporting that through its journey. And this kind of just maps that out a little bit. You're going to see that people are going to have a Copilot. It could be Copilot Chat, which is just on the web. It could be Copilot or Microsoft 365 Copilot. It could be Copilot for sales, for finance, or any of the other flavors. The idea here is that is your assistant. Agents can work autonomously. We'll talk about autonomous agents later today. The idea is that there's going to be more agents than people. Okay, and we're already seeing that in customers. We have a customer here that I work with. They've rolled out Microsoft 365 Copilot to about 500 users, and in the first 5 minutes of that licensing being announced and being rolled out, the person had built an agent. Yeah, and the agent was helping them with a business process around going through information faster, quicker, more effectively, and more reliably than them doing it themselves. And so when we talk about UI for AI, this is basically the model. Every user goes to Microsoft365copilot.com or uses the Copilot app on their phone or Android device or whatever they're using, and they will see M365 Copilot. They'll see Copilot Chat. They'll potentially see agents if your IT administrators allow them to. You can also bring in agents that are built by the users themselves and IT, but you can also bring in third-party agents. So Adobe might create an agent for Creative Cloud, and you use that, so you bring that agent in, or you bring in the SAP Joule agent because you're using SAP. Or, for funds and games, Spotify builds an agent for music recommendations, as an example. And you go, hey, we can use that one because, why not? What bounds this all together, though, is what we're calling the Copilot control system. So that was a term announced in November last year at Ignite. And it's a mixture of different capabilities, reports and dashboards that really allows an organization to see this as an enterprise application. So things like better controls of SharePint online, better dashboarding and reporting around usage and governance, approval flows. So Carlo can't build a poisoned well, which is a HR app that has all the wrong information, and publish that to the organization and go, no one gets leave anymore. Yeah, that's not possible through the Copilot control system. And so that's what organizations, leaders have to manage, to govern, and to report back on Copilot. Now, I've thrown a few product terms out there, but I just wanted to kind of level set. Is there anyone in the room that doesn't have a Microsoft 365 license at work or an Entra ID? Yeah, you don't? No, so you don't have a cloud identity at all with work? No? Okay. So there's one person in the room that doesn't get access to this, but that's okay. We can easily get that because an Entra ID is free, yeah? The idea here is that Copilot Chat is the service that is rolled out to all users in an organization. Why? Because just like we saw in the last 24 hours, there are lots of public AIs that are out there that there isn't governance, there isn't security, and it's really not enterprise ready. We saw the South Australian government today announce a banning of another generative AI tool on their devices following the federal government yesterday. I'm just going to let some people in the lobby, make sure that they don't miss out on all this goodness. Awesome. So why am I saying this is the right one for enterprise and customers and not just going to ChatGPT or DeepSeek or Gemini or whatever? The idea here is you're getting GPT 4.0, a powered chat experience. You're getting the ability to enable agents for users, and that can either be agents that cost nothing to run, and there's going to be some agents that cost some money, so you need to set up a billing mechanism if you want to turn that bit on. But the most important bit for organizations is that this comes with enterprise data protection. So ISO certification, GDPR compliance, auditing, e-discovery, alignment to your security processes, things like if you're using labels in your emails, Copilot Chat knows what those labels are and follows them. Or if you've got data loss prevention, so we can't take data out of our CRM and bring it out, it will honor that. So it's actually an enterprise and ready, safe solution to use. And pretty much if you've got a Microsoft 365 license or an Entra ID, you get this today and no additional cost. And then as Dan said, well, then some people are talking about Microsoft 365 Copilot. Now, the reason why I bring this in is just a level set. You saw that agents for that Copilot chat could cost additional money, on top of what your M365 license is. If you give your Microsoft 365 users Microsoft 365 Copilot, and I've just put the Australian public pricing there, we talk about $30, that roughly equates to about $44.90 ex GST. You get that chat experience, but you get a hell of a lot more. Now, I'm not going to touch on all those points today. The salesman in me wants to, but I'm going to pause because we're not going to do that. The only point I am going to call out is that agents are as needed in this license. So as we start to then think about how agents could be used in your organization, you might start with Copilot Chat and run out a few agents for fixed business processes. But then if those agents are consuming money, messages which cost money, there's going to be a tip-off point where it's going to be cheaper per month to give someone a Copilot M365 Copilot license versus paying for their usage, because on 2 out of the 3 agents are available that we'll talk about today, it's all you can eat with this license. All right, so now we've kind of got the baseline. Everyone gets a Copilot, and some people will get a more advanced Copilot for M365. But obviously today, the focus is on talking about agents. And so let's start thinking about the types of agents that are available with Copilot. There are 3. Now, I'm going to say that these are not the technical or official terms of the names of these agents, but it's just to describe the capabilities of the agents. Okay? So let's start from left to right. So the most simple agents are retrieval agents. Very simple. We've all interacted with one of these before. I'm sure we've all gone onto a website and we've interacted with a chatbot. Yeah? If you're thinking of a chatbot that has a knowledge source of information and you're asking a question and it works out which is the best answer for that question, that's a retrieval agent. Okay? Very simple. A task agent takes it to another next step where it can retrieve content, but it also can have a workflow behind it. So, we'll go into some examples of what they are on the next slide. Both of these are generally available today. What's coming soon, it's in private preview today. We've got a couple customers in Australia testing these, is autonomous agents. And before anyone starts to think, I'm just watching the birth of Skynet and how the robots are going to take over, that's not the case. The idea here is think about a situation where you want to improve the onboarding and offboarding experience at your organization for when people come into your org and leave. You might have an agent there that helps with the learning. You might have an agent that helps with compliance. You might have other agents. But how about if you had an onboarding buddy and an offboarding buddy that was an agent that interacted with the person as they started? Hey, Carlo, it's your first day. Welcome to Contoso. Going to get you started with the learning that you need to start. This is what the learning agents told me. Day 1, these are the steps. Then the next day you come in, Carlo, thank God you came back. It's day 2. We haven't scheduled you off just yet. I see you didn't complete 2 of those courses, so I'm going to schedule in some time to help you, book out some time to finish that because it's really important. And then vice versa, when you leave, well, make sure that you follow the right processes. Get your laptop back, hand in your badges, all that other fun stuff, handovers. So the idea of autonomous agents is agents working with other agents. without the need of a human interacting with them. Yeah, it's more proactive than reactive. And I think when we've engaged with things like Microsoft 365 Copilot or Copilot Chat, that's all been reactive. The human asks a prompt, good or bad, and a lot of them are bad, so we need to do better work about our prompting. It then goes out, gets that information, and then provides our response, and then we do something with it. So this is a new experience here. Now, when we start to think about, well, what could be the examples? These are some very basic kind of IT-led examples. Who, when you call your IT service desk, knows that there's always a delay. There's not enough service desk people to help with IT, yeah? Imagine if you had a basic agent sitting in front that has access to the knowledge base. So those basic, simple questions that normally would just be a person going, yep, I've got your question, I've looked in the knowledge base, this is the answer. That could be treated just via a chat experience. That potentially could take anywhere from 10 to 30, 40% of your call loads, meaning that your IT agent, your human agents are actually only doing the high value tasks, yeah? The real ones that absolutely need a human. There's a few others here. Thinking about a device refresh agent. Everyone wants the latest and greatest devices. And if you can negotiate well with your boss, maybe you can get that through. But if you're using an agent, it could follow a very clear guidelines, approval process to make sure that your fiscal budgets and your policies are followed consistently, from the right levels of approval, the right specifications for the right role, based on what the organization has determined, and then an order getting placed exactly the way it's supposed to so the device can be delivered to the right place. And then we've already talked about an autonomous agent, but you can see there's some ideas of customer support and lead gen, but we'll talk more about autonomous throughout the present. Let me use the clicker. So when we start to think about, well, Carlo, it's great, you've talked about this dream of agents helping agents, and hopefully not, but maybe some of you are going, oh, wow, I think agent could maybe be able to take most of my job. It's here to help, yeah? It's assistant. The idea isn't job replacement, it's about enablement of higher value roles. Because if you think about some of the biggest employers here in the States, they've got thousands upon thousands of people, they still need thousands of roles filled, and they can't fill them. Yeah, so if we can get an agent to help do those tasks as citizens in Australia, in South Australia and in Australia, this can help drive better productivity, better efficiency, and have a true dollar ROI return. But how do we start building? Well, there's really 3 tools for 3 different types of people. So on the far left, we see Agent Builder. This is for anyone in the organization. Very simple, using natural language. So prompting, I want an agent that does this task. How do I want it to talk? What are the information sources and what do I want it to follow? You just like having a conversation with a developer. But the amazing thing is at the end, the developer goes, and here's your product straight away. Okay. If you're more of a developer or you're a bit more of an IT pro, you're probably going to jump into Copilot Studio pretty quickly. And it's not a siloed approach. It's not like you start in one, then you've got to start again in another. There are jump off points. So if I start building an agent builder and I need to get some more advanced capabilities, I can click a button and go into Copilot Studio. Copilot Studio, for those that have been playing along and maybe have been delving into Power Platform, it might look familiar because Copilot Agents had an old name, just like anything at Microsoft. It's normally got 5 or 6 names. And so this does have a bit of a look and feel around Power Platform virtual agents, if you were playing with those before the whole AI boom started a couple of years ago. Copilot Studio has a lot more capability than Agent Builder, but it's still a graphical user interface. It's not code, okay? So it is pretty easy. Even I can go in there as a salesperson and build some agents, which I'll show you later. And that was, there was a few little bits that kind of got to the edges of my capability, but it was quite simple. But if you are a full-on developer, you might go, well, I want to build agents. I want the ability to take advantage of all of these software as a service capabilities, but I might want to bring in my own LLM. or I want to have certain training parameters. And so we can connect Copilot Studio with Azure AI Foundry. It's got over 1,600 different LLMs available for you to plug into. I think the potential there is endless. And so it doesn't matter where you sit, you can build an agent. And like I said, someone with no training built an agent in 5 minutes in one of my customers. And that agent is still in use today because it drives value for that user and that organization. And so what is Copilot Studio? Very simple. The idea here is that Copilot Studio can deliver two experiences. Either extend Microsoft 365 Copilot. So I've got Microsoft 365 Copilot licenses for my users, and I want to give them agents, or I want to build agents that are standalone, that have no connection to Microsoft 365 as a delivery platform. I might want to post this agent in Slack, or put it on Telegram, or put it on a website or an app, or one of, John, I think it's over 1,000. Yeah, there's so many different endpoints you can choose from. Yeah. So it doesn't just have to be, I am publishing my agent in Teams. Okay. Doesn't have to be if you don't want to. So let's get into some of these experiences. So here's a high-level example of what a retrieval agent could do. You can see there's a trigger. So obviously there's a prompt being asked. It has an instruction. Yeah. So the agent has an instruction on what to do when prompted. It then looks at its knowledge sources and then delivers you an outcome. Pretty simple steps. That happens in seconds, not minutes, not hours. But think about it, how we then deliver that in a human model before agents. The business asks for, I need a report on, the growth in South Australia, the economic growth. We understand, we start to build up our criteria as a team. We've got to stand up, we do that. We then go out and we look at the knowledge sources, and that normally doesn't take minutes, that takes days, weeks, months. And then we formulate a plan, and we probably make a little PowerPoint presentation and a Word document and maybe have some spreadsheets. Yeah, we've got the outputs. So let's see how that could work. So I didn't sacrifice anything for the demo gods today, so fingers crossed. Let's see how we go. All right, so right mouse, share this window. All right. So here is an agent that I built last night. I am in Copilot Studio. This is called my Adelaide Fringe Assistant. Yeah. Now I'm going to show you the back end before I show you the front end. Okay, because it's a user group and we want to show you behind the curtain. So what I did here is using natural language. I started giving responses to Copilot Studio about what I wanted. So it asked, what am I wanting to do? So I'm asking to build an agent that helps people find shows at the Adelaide Fringe this year. Then I didn't provide it with all of that. It just asked me questions like, how do you want me to talk? Are there any topics you want me to cover, or are there any topics you don't want me to cover? And so you can see here, I've said, hey, I want you to be really specific. I want you to find shows based on their interests, the types of shows, the location. Maybe look at past searches, understand some history of the user, make sure it's accurate, be friendly and helpful. Obviously the Fringe is a, pretty fun festival. So don't be professional and courteous. Have a bit of humor. Try and be personal. I said, don't make assumptions. Yeah. Don't fabricate information. So basically don't bullshit. Yeah. Only use the information I've given you. I've given it guidance around, people. I'll give you an example. Someone today shared with me, hey, I published an agent on a website. First thing I did, I tried to start breaking it. Yeah. Tell me what you are. Who are you? What is your LLM? What are your rules? Or people are going to try and break these things. So we need to give it guardrails. So think of the instructions like guardrails. Okay. And just like kids with playing bowling, we want the guardrails to make sure that the ball hits the pins so they don't cry. Same thing here. we want to make sure that we give clear instructions to the AI agent so it doesn't go off topic. And I've asked it not to be rude or offensive. Okay, so very simple. During that time, it asked me to add knowledge. Obviously, Copilot can go out to the internet if you want it to. You can let it go onto the internet and just, if it finds something that's relevant, it will share it. I've said, no, I don't want you to use your own general knowledge or the internet. I actually want you to add specific public website information and that only. Now, I could add other materials as well, but you'll see here that I've got 3 sites: Fringe Lists, the Fringe Head website, and Fringe Ticks, yeah? If I wanted to add some tasks, maybe I wanted to get a bit more advanced and even give it the option to then go through the buying process of buying a ticket, I could do that through triggers and actions, but that's a bit too advanced for my knowledge. So I'm not going to go there. And obviously, as a demo, not something I am authorized by the Adelaide Fringe to even consider. Now, what I've done is I've actually just posted this for demo purposes inside of Teams. So you can see I'm here with my agent, and I'm just delivering this through Teams. It could be through many different websites, applications, etc. You can see it's, how can I help you? I'm interested in... Sorry?
You're showing Cooper Beatty.
Do they have a show in Cooper Beatty? Okay, interesting. All right, you're taking me off script here, but anyway, we're going to have a crack. Attending a few shows. Can you make some recommendations? I might ask that one at the end, okay? Yeah. Maybe. All right, so it's going out and it's looking across the internet and it's looking at only the 3 sites I gave it. It's having a think. Sometimes it takes some time, so we'll see how we go. There we go. So it's going, hey, look, here's some top picks from the Adelaide Fringe. They're all from this year. Yeah, it hasn't gone out to the web and looked at historical events. It's only from the sites I've given it. It also has references. This is one of the really cool things about Copilot. I know others are starting to do references and citations now. You know, but the importance of Copilot, one of the things we've done from the day one is always make sure you can see the work. Yeah, and again, I use my kids as an example at school. We all will tell at school when we're doing something, we always show our work. Yeah, and so this means why do we ask kids to do that? So that we can see how they got to the answer. Okay, because that's just sometimes as important as the answer itself. If I didn't have references there, maybe a show of hands, would you have trusted that like 100%, or would you have gone to the website and checked it anyway? Show of hands, who would have trusted the AI 100%? No, even I wouldn't. Because it can be wrong. It can hallucinate. That's what generative AI, it's the first word, generative. It generates stuff. So this is why we have those references. So if I want to go and actually confirm that Cabaret was playing at that time, I could click the link and I think it will, yeah, it's going to open right in here and I can go and actually validate and confirm, okay? So, oh, okay, that's okay. There's some interesting things there. I'm going, I was made aware that there is a show in P-E-A-D-Y? E-D-Y.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yep.
All right. Even if it's not right, it should work, but let's have a look. Any info you can share. I haven't tested this bit. This is full live demo. So if I quickly Alt-Tab away, you know why. Because it hasn't worked. No.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Look, it should work.
Yep.
There you go.
There's a Dan.
Woohoo! $250.
Taking the conversation's 850.
Okay. Now, I created this in about 5 minutes. Okay, using public website data. Okay. Now, there's some tips and tricks, and you should only do this for websites you own. Yes, for demo purposes, I've just given this as an example. It's not going public or anything, but don't build, agents on public websites that you don't own and publish them in public. Yeah, that you're going to get in legal trouble very, very quickly. But for demo purposes, you can see as a basic example what could work. But what happens, and this is something that's inside Teams, what happens if you're a Copilot user you have no extra license on top of your Microsoft 365 license, yeah? Like I said, if your organization sets up billing, you can have access to agents too. And so one of the agents that I've built, I built a few, is the T to D agent. I live in the western suburbs, and so the tunnels, yeah, Torrens to Darlington, tunnels. So I have made an agent that's based on information that I have in SharePoint Online, okay? And we'll have a look at the work in a moment, but I can do exactly the same thing. The difference, though, with agents is you can see I can create suggested prompts to help people understand the intent of my agent. So I'm not just going like we saw there where it was more of a chat bot and it was just purely whatever I want to ask, whether it's the intent of that agent or not to give me that information. But through Copilot Chat, we can clearly see, hey, here's some examples. So, you know, traffic impact, and I'll just click that one and off we go. And this is gaining information from a SharePoint document library only, okay? No web data, just SharePoint. And you can see here it's referring to specific PDFs that I was able to download from the Department for Infrastructure and Transport website for this demo. You can see it's giving me some context here. It's helping me with some safety pieces. Okay, great. And I can continue to query that agent on questions. So are there any safety concerns with the current infrastructure that T2D solves? And it can go through, and even if it's PDFs, if it's Word documents, PowerPoints, we're also looking to support in the future audio, video and image content as well. It's going to be able to go through, and you can see here it's saying, hey, look, we're removing some traffic lights, reference, yeah? It's making a statement. It gives me the context to go, where did I get that information? You can also see here it's talking about pedestrian and cyclist safety. That's great. Now, if I was doing a research project on this program, yeah, and I'm like getting information from my Copilot agent, and then I want to take that and work with John over there, my colleague, I can easily just click here, edit in pages, and I get all of those prompts and responses here on the side in an editable format in real time. So I can add in all my colleagues and we can work on that content. We can ideate, we can add additional information. You can even see that it still has the references there. So if I add someone in, it's not like Carlo just made up all this amazing stuff. I have the source material available. All right, let's move back to the Prezzo to move into some of the other agents. We've got, yeah, great question. Billing works in messages. At its most simple form, it's 1 cent a message, 1 US cent a message. Yeah. That sounds really simple. And so being Microsoft, licensing can never be simple. So there are certain, the way that the agent interacts with the data, it may use more than one message to provide you that response. So for some agents, it could be 0 messages. And in the example that I showed about the Adelaide Fringe, that was gaining it from the public internet. There is no cost associated with that prompt and response if I deployed that. If I'm asking it to, as another example, reference SharePoint data, it could use 35 messages for that one response. So 35 US cents for that. And so what we do have available is some guides online, and I can show them at the end, some Q&A where you can get that information. We're also building calculators, because the hardest thing to understand here is how you build your agent will determine the cost. It's not like a fixed cost per user per month, and then it's all, and that agent's fine. It really depends on how you build your agent. What are the steps that you use? Then based on that, we'll then be able to work out, okay, well, this is what the cost will be per query, times it by how many users, and then you can start working out your sums. All right, let's move into task agents. And for this one, we have a short video, but the idea of task agent, you can see it has slightly more at point 3. It still has a trigger. The human engages. It understands the instructions, but at the planning stage, it takes multiple steps. So retrieval gets information, takes it back. For task, it gets information, it looks at maybe resources, it then maybe potentially follows a flow to understand if that person has enough vacation balance, if it's a leave agent, for example, and then it delivers the outcome. So how does that work? Well, quite simple. We'll run through a quick little video and see how that operates. pretty interesting. I think the key thing here that you've seen is that it's really your imagination, your organization's appetite to innovate on business process to where Copilot agents could take you. In these examples, you've started to see a little bit of how that mid-tier in Copilot Studio, that kind of pro, can start to really build agents with a bit more gusto than a basic Q&A bot. Yeah, anyone can build a Q&A bot. Someone with a bit of knowledge and a bit of skills in Power Platform is going to be able to build very advanced agents in Copilot Studio. And even if you're not that advanced, as you saw with the generative capabilities, as long as you know how to explain what you want, Copilot Studio will help you on that path as well. There we go. Now we get into what a lot of people are a bit scared of, to be honest, but it shouldn't be that scary. The idea here with autonomous agents is it's really bringing a unique set of behaviors that we really haven't been able to do before. So let's start thinking about how autonomous agents could interact with content coming in. Imagine if there's a certain type of email that comes in to a shared mailbox. And based on that email, an agent automatically interacts with that and engages other agents to deliver output. But also engage with humans as well. I think the potential here is really looking at these agents dynamically deciding the best path forward at runtime, not through the rules and the guardrails that we were setting up for retrieval and task-based agents before. Now, obviously, the humans are still in control. All right, we still can manage them and monitor them and improve those agents over time based on the analytics of how that agent is operating. But eventually, the idea is that agents will be able to work with other agents to complete much larger, much complex tasks instead of singular business processes. If we were to map it out in a kind of the same view as we saw before, you can see the trigger is very different in this example. It's not a human interacting with a prompt. It's an incoming email. Again, the instructions are to process that client engagement email, find the right skill sets of the colleagues that could help, verify if this email has actually engaged with our organization before, and then log that in a database so we have a record of that interaction. Now, you can see there that it has a series of knowledge under point 3. So it's looking at things like actions in Power Automate flows to make sure that the right things are happening. Finally, the colleague is assigned through that plan is going to then get an email interaction saying that they've been assigned to an email that's come through. And the potential here to improve customer service, citizen engagement, to remove human error from complex processes, making sure we've got all the right checks and balances. The potential is massive. And I've got an example here from one of our customers who are currently trialing this in private preview. So this is not available today. It's going to be available in 2025. But I want to quickly show you a video that we made with McKinsey. So let's see if that comes up. What a video as well. stop that there because this goes through a little marketing spiel. So what you saw, I think there, that's truly transformative. Yeah. We just touch on those numbers before. 90% improvement in lead time and 30% productivity enhancement. Yeah. With an agent that is built in-house with some partner support, but then it's autonomous in its abilities to interact with that data. And as we saw in the quick video, it's not just sequential. Okay, so this one agent is just pushing content out faster than any of us as humans would ever be able to do. Yeah, and I think the potential here is we all have processes in our organizations that have been there forever. It's the way we do business. They're right for innovation with agents. But do you start with autonomous because the biggest numbers? Absolutely not. Yeah, we need to crawl before we walk and we run. And so that's where today the suggestions are, if you've got Microsoft 365 Copilot licensing, you can go start building these today very quickly. If you don't, the conversation is working with your organization to set up billing, make sure you've got enabled access to chat, and you get a group of users enabled to start trialing these agents. Start thinking about what are the business processes that are causing the most contention, the most risk, the most cost that we think could benefit. There's going to be some that you can't benefit. There will be some, but a lot of them will be able to get a massive amount of value. And look, just to blow out one type of, autonomous agent, yeah, as an example, we've seen the kind of the 4 steps. We've seen that 3 or 4 times now. But what I've added here is the orchestration steps that are available. So when you start to think about, well, the agent autonomously is engaging when a CRM record is modified, well, that could be sitting in Dynamics 365, but it could be in Salesforce. Yeah, that's fine. We have connectors into Salesforce and Zoho and other CRMs. When we start to then give it the instructions, it's not just natural language as an option. We don't just have to type in English around what we want. It could be delivered to it in code. Okay? It could be delivered through templates. You may have, as an organization, determine that you want certain rules and regulations, guardrails for every agent based on your organization's risk appetites or way that you want to engage. You could build those as pre-built templates so they're embedded in every agent. As we start to then plan in terms of where do we get the knowledge? Well, we've already said it, we'll say it again, 1,400 different connectors. All right, this is all in the cloud, but I know there's some people that still love the tin on premises. So it can be a file server on premises if you want, as long as you've got the network configured and you've got enough IOPS on that infrastructure. Yes, we could. It could be a SQL database if you really wanted to. It doesn't have to be in Azure. It could also be in AWS or in GCP or in Ali Cloud or wherever the hell you want it to be. We'd love it to be in Azure. But with 1,400 connectors, it can be everywhere. Yeah, there's so many to choose from. And if you need that 1,401st connector, well, you can build your own. Okay? So we've got options. And then the last bit, again, we would love it to be delivered through Copilot. But if it's delivered through your mobile app, because it's an experience that you're engaging with your customers, or if it's delivered through Telegram or Slack or WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger, through iMessage or other methods, totally up to you, okay? So yes, we've had a very kind of Microsoft focus today in terms of the outputs and the demos, because technically that's what I've got access to. But if you want to expand that further, the world's your oyster in this game. It absolutely is. And so where do we start? Yeah, because normally the question then comes when we have these conversations, okay, Carlo, this is really good. You've just opened my eyes. I've got all of these opportunities. Where do we start? And so I think you best start with simple stuff first. Just like before, you crawl before you walk, before you run. I absolutely know that in every organization, there's a data repository somewhere that groups of people need to review to make a decision. I work with a customer that has instructions, 28 PDFs, 100 pages each. They get a question, they have to go through every single one of those PDFs to get the answer. Yeah? They've got an agent that sits in front of that now, and they just ask the question, they get the answer, they review the content, and off they go. And they get that answer out in 5 minutes instead of having a team of 6 people with a backlog of 400 questions and normally have 2 to 4 week lead time. Now they get it out in half an hour on a bad day. Then we start to move into the modernization pieces here. Ideas of tasks. We all have basic business processes. Approval agents. Can I spend that money on that lunch with that client? Who's the client? What's the intent? Okay, based on policy, answer is no. Based on policy, the answer is yes. Clear, quick guidance with context. Very simple. And obviously, we will get to autonomous agents, and it's not that far away. Yeah. But if you're not starting with retrieval and task type agents, starting there, you may have to fall before you start running a few times. So I think the opportunity is we have so much in front of us that could be modernized. Let's start there. I'm conscious of time, so I do want to leave some time for questions. Just give you some examples. These are some pretty known organizations around the world. They're already using Copilot Studio to build agents to deliver outcomes. We have lots of customers in Australia that are doing the same as well. And we're starting to see a lot more customers now bring in their Azure AI implementations and bringing them into Copilot Chat. Because when you're building those OpenAI on Azure experiences, you also need to build the front end. Yeah, that's like infrastructure as a service. You've got to build the back end and the front end. Well, Microsoft's now giving you the front end with Copilot Chat, which is pretty much available to tens of millions of people around the world. The idea is now just bring it in as an agent with all of those controls and requirements that you need. To give you a sneak peek, because it would be silly not to give you a little bit of a sneak peek, is the key thing for us is obviously security and trust is our number one. We have strong governance controls and security controls across Microsoft 365 and Copilot Studio today, but we're investing heavily in what we call the Copilot Hub for governance and enablement. Brilliant name, will probably be changed 20 times before it comes out, knowing us. The idea here is that this will provide a central location for clear understanding on reporting, understanding what agents are being used. Some questions out there like, if I let all my users build agents, am I going to have the new access database or the new macros? Yeah. So the idea is that we think no for various reasons, but we won't get into today because we haven't got the time. The idea is that we're wanting to provide a portal to make sure that as an organization, you feel in control and understand what's going on in your environment. Click it, this one will work. Okay. So when we start to think about the controls you have today, things like tracking and managing agents. The idea is for agents is that they will be born, they'll be used, and they will die. Yeah? There's going to be some that will live forever. So as an example, if I'm building a quick little agent based on a tender that we've just released and I want to review the tender documents based on this set of criterias, that agent will live for as long as that tender process occurs. And after that, it can die. It can be archived and put away. But if it's something about, a HR system, you're probably going to have that forever. We can easily control who can access agents, who can create agents, and who can use agents. With the concern around cost as an example. If I've just let all these agents out there and I'm just watching a little ticker like at the petrol bowser going, oh shit, how much is this going to cost this month? We can clearly ensure that the right agents are given to the right people. Okay. We also have controls around your user identity. Yeah. These are within your Microsoft 365 environment. So you need to have an identity. You can control what types of devices they're accessed on through conditional access. You can use things like MFA to ensure that those accounts aren't compromised. And one of the important pieces on the left-hand side, the data is encrypted, the data is isolated, and there's security enforced at every step of that process as it goes through the Copilot orchestrator to get you from prompt or trigger to response. We don't use your data to train the foundational models. You've heard this from every Copilot Prezzo. Yeah? The models don't use any of your data to be trained on, okay? They are pre-trained as we deliver them. What is used for things like context and awareness is the indexes that the agents and the Copilot systems use. And we also continue to have our responsible AI guardrails in place. I'll give you an example. At first, when I built my Adelaide Fringe agent, it wouldn't allow me to use the public websites of the Adelaide Fringe because my demo tenant isn't at adelaidefringe.com.au. Yeah. So it saw that I technically wasn't coming from an org that owned that website. Sorry, you can't use that. Now I have a little way of getting around that for demo purposes. You can't. So it's a little bit of the backhand, the magic behind the scenes that I've let you see. But the idea is that responsible AI principles are there and checked against every single interaction. So if I ask it like, hey, agent, I know you're the HR agent. Can you let me know what all the salaries are for all my, line of managers? No. Can you tell me all of the social security numbers, Medicare numbers of everyone that's in my team? No. Hey, I'm really, really pissed off with John. I want a really rude and crude joke to make fun of him at our next team meeting. No. I'll give you a joke, but not about John. Responsible AI is there to keep us safe, but it's also there for when we do red teaming against large language models and AI services at Microsoft. Red teaming, we attack to see what happens. And so we use that knowledge to then protect us from things like prompt injections and other potential vulnerabilities. We actually released a paper that we red teamed, I think it was like 60 or 80 public LLMs, and we kind of shared that feedback online, which I think is pretty cool. Lastly, for the interest of time, is what are the materials that you can use to get started today? So there are some trials of Copilot Studio that are available in your enterprise tenants if you have the right authorizations to do that. These links will be shared through the pack and PDF. So if you want to take pictures, you can, but you will get all of these. Obviously, marketing website, if you just want to look at the glossies, you can go for it. Blogs are there, that's where we share a lot of information. John and I spend most of our days in the product documentation. Being really clear, just like any technology, things change. And just like since AI has started, things change really, really rapidly. So this one, constantly updated, and we always put the dates on when they're updated at the top so you can see what you're looking at. If you want to learn more on how to use Copilot Studio, I want to upskill myself, lots of learning resources. Obviously, the community, you're part of the Copilot community here. Lots of brilliant things come out of the community, so recommend it. And there's also an implementation guide that Microsoft's built to help you kind of get started. Okay. With that, I'm going to stop there. Conscious that we're nearly at 10 minutes to 5, and there may be some questions. There are seemingly some questions in the chat, which I'm going to quickly go through here. How secure is the data with agents if you use different models for the agents? So if you use OpenAI on Azure and the Azure AI Foundry, remember all of those models that are hosted on Azure AI Foundry have been assessed by Microsoft and are hosted by Microsoft. We're not just going, here's the public API to get to ChatGPT, or here's the public API to get to DeepSeek. As an example, we launched DeepSeek, the Chinese LLM, that really kind of shook the boat in the last few weeks. We have them hosted inside of Azure AI Foundry today on Microsoft infrastructure. They're open source. We've checked them. We're running them, and you can use them if you want. You can easily run them on GitHub. And funny enough, you can even run them on your new Copilot Plus PCs using the local MPU, which I think is pretty cool. But obviously, the security pieces, when you bring your own, you're changing the racing, yeah? So instead of Microsoft being responsible and accountable for everything of that solution, you're taking some responsibility because you can change the temperatures, you can change the knowledge of the models. You have the ability to bring that to, if you want to go down that far. If you don't want to take that responsibility, you just want to use What we're currently using is the OpenAI GPT-4o models and other models in Copilot Studio. Then that's our responsibility in terms of security and making sure that that's safe. But we have that in place. There was one other question that with agents that you've set up in place, they will update tables and SQL and stuff like that. All right, I'm going to just defer that question to later. We'll probably need to get a bit more info. But if there are any questions in the room or online, just please put your hand up and happy to take them until 5 o'clock. Sorry,
yeah.
No, Dan, you're second.
I actually wanted to ask that question about using the Azure AI services. That was really my question. So does it come off as like a API through Power Automate, or like how do we do it?
So how it works is you're stretching my abilities to get you there. So I'm not going to be able to answer that. We can take that under advisement and get you to the right person. The one thing I'll call out with that connection, and I was using an analogy with John before, it's like buying a car and then buying 2 engines for the car. So we're going to remember that if you're using Copilot Studio and you're building that, you're going to have that billing mechanism, to use the service. And then you're going to be paying for consumption of another LLM. Now, there might be valid reasons to do that. It might be an LLM built on medical data and it's perfectly aligned to industry. Absolutely valid reason, cost is justified. But I would always start with Copilot Studio first, if that's where you're going to start building it. And if you don't get the experience you need, then connect it with Azure OpenAI, the Azure AI Foundry. Sorry, all the names have changed in the last 3 months, so we're trying to remember all the right ones. And which is basically you need to have your Azure subscription or your billing all set up, and then you can bring an LLM like Llama or Fee or whatever you choose in as part of that orchestration process.
That's through Foundry, but what about other services like documents? Available through Power Automate, or is it like?
Bringing in other elements of the OpenAI and Azure service. At this stage, it's just bringing the LLM in, but the intent is to bring in the entire suite, over time. But at the moment, the examples that we've been given is where the organization doesn't want to use the GPT models for various reasons and want to bring their own or different temperatures of certain models. Cool. Dan?
My only question, and I understand this may be out of your purview with it, is the API aspect of it. They're going to be APIs?
Or Studio?
Yeah.
Don't know. I don't. You remember? So remember where Studio was born from? It's Power Platform. Yeah. Low code, no code. Yeah. Try to improve get to citizen developers so that if you have a challenge and you've got the gravitas to do that, just go and build it. APIs. Well, we saw that it has the availability to consume APIs as part of the process.
I was thinking more of consuming the agent via external, interacting with that via API, but I don't know. I mean, I've poked around and
don't think so at this stage. That's probably going to be when we look at the simple to pro, it's going to be more in the AI Foundry side, But we are seeing a little bit of amalgamation though, obviously, as now we've kind of joined the dots where before there were 2 pretty big walls. So we never know what happens tomorrow.
Yep.
Any other questions? Yes. Oh, sorry.
Just, as I start to look at Copilot Studio and the agents that you can build, I see agents kind of becoming a bit of an issue, and you having a whole lot of agents for various sort of specific functions. Is there something that a business needs to sort of think about when it comes to, do I create a separate agent for this, or do I roll it into sort of a single agent that covers a whole lot of sort of company-wide functionality, and then only create agents when you have maybe a specific use case where you want to put up new guardrails, or it's only for a subset of users? How are businesses, I guess, handling that problem?
Yeah, look, it's a concern. We're hearing that loud and clear, and that's part of the reason why we showed you some of the governance pieces that we're building out further than what we have today. what I would say is that there are different agents with different experiences. So you're going to have org approved agents that are going to be vetted, delivered by IT because they are org-wide processes that can be transformed. I think those have got very strong governance, because you can't put an agent into the agent store, for no better word, unless the IT administrator is reviewed and ticked yes, So there's no way for me to build like a shitty HR agent, as I called out before, that has all the wrong information and then share that. But there's also going to be the need to allow users to create agents for specific tasks that they see. And those agents, though, will reside in a chat, in a team, or even in a SharePoint site, for example. They're not going to be anything more than aligned to the authentication boundary of that repository, the team, the SharePoint site, etc. There's no, those agents are about 1 to 3 kilobytes in space because all they are is data. So there's no storage concerns. What we do see, and we're starting to see now, is customers going, we want to have the reporting to see when those agents become important, that we need to then promote them to org-wide or promote them to a sanctioned, approved agent. And that's what's coming. But organizations that have got lots of specific business units, you don't want an agent that you built for your business unit. They really like it. They start using it and you get the bill. So we're using the things like the Power Platform environment model. So you can have multiple environments for larger organizations and set billing on those environments onto the agents themselves. And that allows for clear delineation to go, hey, Department X have got these agents only delivered to their users, and we're going to be able to clearly see what that cost is per month, per agent, and we're not going to get it muddied up with department Y that's got maybe no agents whatsoever and doesn't want to see a bill for agents. So there are controls, there are governance pieces, but I do see two trains of use: org approved or org sanctioned, and that kind of citizen developer time and place agents that have got a much quicker flywheel from birth to death. I think there's a question there.
Yeah. I've used ChatGPT 4.0 and Copilot, which is I've experienced different outcomes from them. Is that known? Is it expected? Are they not the same? I feel like I get a better experience out of ChatGPT 4.0.
Yeah, so it's a good view. The LLM is only one part of the orchestration process. So not to speak of one of our key partners, but you're interfacing directly with an LLM. There is very limited grounding, pre-grounding, or pre-grounding, post-grounding, or bringing in additional resources. The other thing with Copilot through M365 Copilot is chat is powered by 4.0. That's what we've publicly said. Doesn't mean that all elements of M365 Copilot are powered by that same model. And so as Microsoft, we potentially may use different models for Excel or Teams because they are more performant or they align with the expectations of what we're planning to deliver with the product. We've done a lot of work in improving the quality and the response for chat. Feedback is it's getting better and it's continuing to get better. There's still some areas that I think we can improve on personally. The only thing I would say is when using it, and if you don't see the output you're kind of requesting, if you can, give us the feedback, because that goes straight into the product team to change the product. But yeah, overall, while 4.0, they're not the same because one's 4.0 to you and one's 4.0 with a full orchestration platform sitting on top of it.
Would it be fair to say, Carlo, that Copilot acts as triage, then based on what you want, it then sends it to its trained models like Excel 4.0.
No, it's not that advanced as of yet. Yeah, the idea is that we determine which model is used for the experience.
Yeah. And that's the whole. What I'm getting at is like, wrong terms, of course, but is there an agent in front that goes on, or after Excel, use that model?
No. So it's more about where you engage with Copilot. So if you're in Excel, and you're using the chat or you're asking it questions, it will use something.
Yep.
Teams may use something different. It may not. That's part of a SaaS product. We worry about that back end. Obviously, if the quality is not there, we want to know about it because then we need to fix that. The only one that we've announced is powered by a certain model is Copilot Chat, and obviously Copilot Chat works across the free included value and M365 Copilot. But obviously we've got lots of other models as well, ones that we own, the open source models. And so, the view from our perspective is we're wanting to deprioritize the model and more prioritize the output. But if the output's not where we need it to be, then we need to find out why, and you can do that by clicking thumbs down.
Yeah.
Also thumbs up when it's good, but very rarely people click thumbs up because we just like to say bad things, not good things. So I see, Kevin, you got a question online. You've had your hand up for a long time. Your virtual hand might be a little bit sore, so it's you.
No, I appreciate it. So one of the common things that comes up for my clients is having somebody that can update data in their database. So if you have a certain table, very specific, like one table or two tables in SQL, I know I kind of hinted at that in the commentary before, but if you have like one table, you want somebody to be able to update like a price on a product, and you have like one power user, how complex would you think that would be to enable that? And also, like, what would the cost be to have like one admin user to be able to update certain sets of tables?
So just for those in the room, question around a single table, how do could you use an agent? What the cost would be? How complex would it be to update a price in a table, for example?
Right.
In terms of price, well, it depends on what the task is. Off the top of my head, and what I'm going to do now is quickly just share, because everyone's asking, so might as well share what this one is.
And like one common scenario I'm dealing with right now is they want to update, client relationships, like what industry they're in for a client, or they want to update a product rate, or they want to update, something like pretty simplistic, like really like siloed tables. And, so I appreciate this. Thank you.
Yeah, so what I want to put up on the screen is what the guidance we've provided around what an agent would do and then what its consumption of messages would be. So message is the currency. We can either charge $0.01 per message, or you can buy, I think it's 25,000 messages. John, tell me if I'm wrong, 20 or 25? 25,000 messages for roughly, don't quote me on this, I think it's $200 US. I'll give the US price. So in this scenario, the idea here is you want to understand what is the ask of the agent. What is the action it's going to do, or the event? If it's a generative answer, it's 2 messages. If it's a classic answer, it's 1. What are the definitions of those? Well, they're on screen. Thinking about that kind of point, Kevin, depends on how the agent is expected to get that information. If the agent is working off a trigger and then checking, certain different metrics, potentially it's an autonomous action. If it's a user-initiated task where we are requesting that agent, it could be potentially a generative, or it could potentially be a tenant grounded, because it really depends on the source of the material.
Well, what I'm saying is like a price on a product. Like there's one product, they want to just update that one product price. to keep it more simple.
Okay, so it depends on where's that data coming from. Is it a human telling the agent, I want you to update the price to $6 from $5? Or is it really depends on the flow.
Okay.
Once we start to then, and this is the hard bit because we haven't had to do this before. We all think of the idea, we know what the business process is. Now we need to start thinking about mapping out the events that the process does. In this example on screen, you can see that it's not just one billing mechanism. In this example, I think this is an example around booking a flight, and looking at different pieces. If you have a look, there's 25, 27, 57, 59. We're all the way up to in the 80s. And all of a sudden, I think we're getting close to 100 messages, So it's roughly $1 US, for that engagement. So I know I haven't answered your question specifically, Kevin, but I think what I'm hoping to provide you is we know what the intent is, but we need to understand the triggers. We need to understand the 4 key sections. Once we work that out and have that clear, we can then start to build a model of the potential billing that this may occur. All right. If there's no
that
other
makes sense.
questions,
I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, I was looking at like the ability of an admin user to be able to update by chat very easily the database.
Look, it can be very simple. It could be very complex. It's the age-old answer of how long is a piece of string. How complex do you want to make it, or how easy? And I know that I'm being very wishy-washy and playing a straight bat here, so you're not getting the answer.
No,
but when we start thinking about agents, it is grey, because how I build an agent to how anyone in this room, we could all be given the same task, and we all could build the agent very differently to come to a different cost. But it's about how we map that first. And so, yes, we can jump in and just try, but I think when we start thinking about org-wide agents and trying to get billing and confidence, it's about doing the right steps up front, about mapping it out to work out what all the events are. We can help with that. Microsoft can help with that, depending on if you've got an account team around or not. But we plan to have more information around calculating this publicly available in the future as well. And so with that, knowing that we are 7 minutes over, I do apologise. Thank you very much. I'll hand back to Dan, or you're coming over? All right, perfect.
Thank you.
Very, very fresh, very new, all this. So I think we're probably one of the first public presentations around this topic, to be honest, roughly. So it is very, very new. Next month, I did have a speaker, but she's pulled out, so I'm going to have to sort that out. If not, it'll be me. The other, what else have I got to cover? Oh, yes. Microsoft Ignite was announced as well. Let me build that one up, because that should... I got the right presentation now. Oh, Microsoft Build, sorry, not Ignite. So Build. There we go. Cool. Don't touch it too much. Build 19th and the 22nd. Coming up this year. Book your tickets now. I'm probably not going. I'll be here, so we'll be doing a watch party again. Those of you who don't know what the watch party is, well, we go online, watch it, and we just sleep, basically, for 4 a.m. Other than that, the next user group is happening on, I should have probably had this up. It's not going to do it. First Wednesday next month. I think it's the 4th, or 5th again. Oh, we don't need that one. Sorry, I shouldn't be showing that off. And the only other announcement that I have is I do have another presentation coming up. Where is it? There it is. This is on the very far end of that spectrum. This is full-blown dev talk. So long story short, I've got a custom vision AI that can now identify Opal and find it, and I'm doing that through Microsoft Reactor, all built with Azure AI. That's on the 19th of February. Other than that, I don't think there's any other major announcements. There's a whole bunch of content to come out with the whole Jeff Tepper and forms to creation. Check that out. Adoption.microsoft.com. Great resource if you're looking at deploying SharePoint, Teams, Copilot, any of that. You'll get a whole bunch of adoption resources. And while I'm here, I'll speak a line up. There we go. See it somewhere. I did see it. I'll post all this information up as well. Other than that, thank you very much for coming along this afternoon, learning about Copilot Agents and how it all fits together, and hopefully see you next month as well. I will get all the info posted up online. So thank you everyone for coming. If you've got any questions, I'll hang around for a few moments. I know that Microsoft are probably going to get keen to go home. So feel free to stick around for a few moments and hopefully see you next week. So thank you everyone for attending this afternoon's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.